The role of the media in any society can never be underestimated. The Constitution of Zimbabwe makes provisions for fundamental media and information rights. Most importantly, the Constitution acknowledges the freedom of expression, freedom of the media, and the right to information. Today on Transformation Markers, we've invited Honorable Prince Dubeko Sibanda, the chairperson of the Parliamentary Portfolio on Information, Media and Broadcasting Services. Honorable Sibanda, welcome.
Thank you, Yvonne. Hello, Zimbabweans.
All right, to kickstart, you have taken over the role of chairperson for this particular portfolio committee in Parliament. What are the things that you're looking forward to doing there?
Yvonne, as you might be aware, and as all Zimbabweans might be aware, the information sector has been a very contentious sector in this country, starting from decades back when, especially during and after elections, that the media has been accused of polarized and biased reporting. And therefore, as a committee of parliament, our responsibility is oversight, is legislative and representative. Now, representative in the sense that we represent the people of Zimbabwe, the totality of the people of Zimbabwe. Mm-hmm. So those issues that Zimbabweans raise as problems within the media sector, it means that as a committee, as members of parliament, we have to represent the people. Mm-hmm. So as we represent them, it means we have to push for those interests. Mm-hmm. Now, legislative and oversight means that we have got the responsibility to ensure that the information sector is run according to the desires of Zimbabweans. And desires of Zimbabweans are more clearly stated in the Constitution of Zimbabwe. Remember that the Constitution was a product of what the people had said. So people said they want freedom of expression, they want freedom of the media, mm-hmm. People want access to information. So those are the things that we then set on to look at as a committee and say, how do we address the challenges that are there? Mm-hmm. In the few days that I have been chairperson, I have looked at the laws that control our media sector, the Broadcasting Authority, Broadcasting
Services Act,
Broadcasting Services Act, mm-hmm. The ZBC Commercialization Act, AIPA as well, and I have been able to note that indeed some of the challenges that people have been talking about are apparent in a number of ways. Mm-hmm. The first one, we want to acknowledge that at least in terms of print media, mm-hmm. Zimbabwe's media is a bit balanced in terms of ownership and in terms of reportage. Mm-hmm. Although there's polarization in that publicly owned media is more inclined towards reporting in favor of the ruling party of that particular day, and whilst the private media is also accused of being more pro opposition forces. But the truth of the matter is that there is some kind of balancing in terms of content of both the public and private media. Then the major challenge is in the broadcasting sector. Mm-hmm. Especially where radio is concerned, especially where television is concerned. Mm-hmm. The major challenge that we have experienced is that in terms of content and in terms of ownership of radio stations, you find that we have got 6 national radio stations in this country. Mm-hmm. And instead of seeing plurality in views from those 6 media outlets, you notice that the majority of them are owned by ZBC, mm-hmm. That is the government through ZBC. The others are owned by the government through Zim papers, mm-hmm. and possibly only one national radio station which is so-called privately owned, and that is the one that is owned by Superman Mandwanzira,
the former deputy information,
actually the former minister of ICT in just about a few months ago. So if you look at it, therefore it implies to every reasonable Zimbabwean that information in terms of radio in this country is solely controlled by the government, which are composed of ZANU-PF, and also the so-called private is not very private because Superman Mandwanzira is a senior member of ZANU-PF. Therefore, whatever ideas that come out of his radio stations tend to promote the sole line of thinking of ZANU-PF. So we believe that in terms of licensing, the manner that those licenses were given in such a partisan manner doesn't do any justice at all to the constitutional requirement that there should be plurality in terms of media. And therefore, when we go again to television, you'll notice that in Zimbabwe up to now, since independence, we only have got one television station. Not only that it is boring to be listening, not only that it is monotonous to be continuously viewing one and similar idea, but we also believe that it is doing a disservice to issues of expanding the media industry, creating employment. I'll give you an example, Yvonne, that if you go to South Africa, look at how the film industry is growing. Look at Nigeria, at how the film industry is growing. In Zimbabwe, you cannot grow a film industry based on only one TV station. So there should be plurality of TV stations. There should be multiple TV stations, and only then can we begin to see the arts industry also beginning to grow. And remember, art industry is a billion-dollar industry. In South Africa, the art industry on its own contributes about 5% of the gross domestic product. And that means a lot. In terms of employment, it creates almost 2% of the totally employed people in that economy. And therefore, we need to open up those areas. So we are not saying let us open up solely for political reasons, but for economic reasons as well.
Definitely.
So, yeah,
you can continue.
So we then go on from there. If you look at the Broadcasting Services Act and the licensing procedures, we are saying on one end that we are open for business, but we have got a section in the Broadcasting Services Act that bars licensing of a radio or television station which is funded by a foreign person. So in short, what you are saying is that in the media sector, you have got zero tolerance to foreign direct investment. Because if you are saying we don't want a radio station or a television station that is foreign funded, you are simply saying we don't want foreign money into the economy. And on the other end, you are busy saying we are open for business. When you have got certain sectors that are closed for business. And the media sector is one sector that is hugely closed for business in this country. And I believe that it is nonsensical for the good not only of our democracy but also for the good of our economy. That restriction has got to be ousted.
Honorable Sibanda, you raised pretty fundamental issues around the role that the media has, not only in keeping the nation informed, but also in creating employment and actually contributing to the revenue of the nation. And as you can see, Zimbabwe is really in trouble, economically at the moment. Let's talk about the licensing procedures. We understand that at this particular juncture, we cannot continue to function with one broadcasting TV station. What is the commission going to be looking at in terms of licensing other private owned broadcasters?
What we are basically looking at, Yvonne, is that I think one of the reasons that has kept us with a limited number of television station, that is one. Beside the political control, there is also the issue of us having to migrate from monologue to digitalization. We believe that we are going to work together with the responsible authorities, with the ministry, to ensure that digitalization is fully functional. We are informed that with digitalization we are likely going to see the opening up of airspace to an extent that then the country can be able to have 12 TV stations. So we'll be having channels for 12 TV stations. We are aware that the intention of the current government is that out of those 12 TV stations, they want to give 6 of them to ZBC. And then the other 6 to the private sector. But we believe that if we have only 12 TV stations as a country, giving the government 50% of that will be a bit too much. It means that we are actually limiting the views of others. And we are also looking forward to have a scenario where we hear the strict guidelines on how those stations that are going to be given to the private sector are going to be given. We don't want a scenario that we have seen in the radio sector, where in the radio licenses, where we are seeing only ZBC, where we are seeing only people that are pro-ZANU-PF. Even when you look at the community radio stations, you find that the community radio stations that we have in this country are owned either by ZBC, which is a government-controlled body. They are owned also by Zim Papers, which is also a government-controlled body, and the rest that are so-called in private hands, the hands of Wengwere and the Superman Wanzira, are not very private. They are very public, because those are ZANU-PF people. So we are saying we should stop this kind of partisan licensing of radio station and any form of broadcasting licenses. Those should be done in a manner that anybody and everyone who wants to set up a radio station should be able to do that, as long as they meet our minimum reasonable requirements as a country.
All right. We talked about digitalization and how it's going to open up the airspace, and Zimbabwe has just been lagging behind in that field, just as we are lagging behind in so many areas. Is the Commission going to push, for digitalization at a faster pace?
I want to say that we are looking forward as a committee to have an interaction with the ministry that is responsible for media, information and broadcasting services, so that we hear from them the level of challenges that they are facing. We have been always saying that we should move from monologue to digitalization by 2015, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And now we are 3 years behind the internationally set deadline. And therefore, we would want to understand whether it is an issue of challenges that are impossible to overcome, or is an issue of priorities not being set in that area. I think with engagement with the responsible ministry, together we should be able, with other stakeholders, to help the country move forward towards digitalization. And I'm looking forward to ensure that in a very short space of time, and at least not later than 2023, when this committee will be coming to the end of its own life, there should be full digitalization in this country.
All right. We are releasing graduates in the field of media, information and communication. We've got polytechnics releasing students, who studied mass communication and stuff like that. But within the journalism fraternity, we have seen, how they've been assaulted in line of duty, how they've been arrested for merely reporting on issues that are happening, issues to do with harassment of the media. How is the commission, the committee, going to look into that, so that our jobs are protected? Basically, when we do our work, we are doing it knowing that we are protected by law.
I think the first thing that we have to take note of, Yvonne, is that the incidences where we have witnessed journalists are being impeded in the course of carrying out their duties. It is usually done by state functionaries that do not want journalists to access information pertaining to certain activities, and that information will be in the hands of state bodies. Therefore, it is my view that as a committee, we will work towards ensuring that pieces of legislation which hinder the free conducting of the business of the journalists are amended. We are looking at the laws like IPA, we are looking at laws like POSA, laws that seem to be ultra various the positions of sections 61 and section 62 of the Constitution of Zimbabwe. Those sections provide for freedom of expression and freedom of the media. Those sections provide for the access of information that is held by public bodies and government institutions. And therefore, I think it is important that any piece of that legislation which try to hinder journalists from accessing that information as free as possible should go away. So it is my view that when we conduct our legislative oversight, we'll ensure that the pieces that do not go hand in hand with the provisions of the Constitution are eliminated from the law. So we will push, I believe that that is within the ambit of the committee to ensure that the executive, without delay, do the alignment of those laws to the requirements of our Constitution. So that is within our mandate, and that is a fully much within our mandate. We don't see any reason why the executive should not comply if the committee so rules and Parliament so rules in its resolutions.
And the interesting thing is that journalists are accredited by the Zimbabwe Media Commission, and so when they are conducting their business, they're actually legal, to be doing that kind of work. But it's unfortunate when we get law enforcement authorities coming in to arrest or to harass or to even beat up journalists. We saw it happening on the 1st of August. Journalists who were covering the event that was happening around the CBD, Harare CBD, they were being assaulted. Now, journalists want to be protected, and we are signatories to international protocols that protect journalists, you see. So as a commission, how do you then ensure that these fundamental rights are protected?
I think what is required, Yvonne, for now is to ensure that those laws that I spoke about, which are the laws behind which the state actors are hiding behind, the police are hiding behind. They are hiding behind particular laws. I think the moment that we eliminate those laws that the police are hiding behind in order to prevent journalists from conducting their business should be repealed. Once we do repeal those laws, I believe that it becomes easy to uncover, to remove the veil that the police will be hiding behind. So once they become exposed, I believe that in a very short period of time, they should be able to then comply with the requirements of the existing law. Because now they hide behind the law. They say the law allows the police to do this. Okay? So once that law is scrapped, I believe that the police will be exposed. They will be exposed to civil suits. They will be exposed to other numerous actions against them by the citizens. So once that happens, I believe that then the police will be inclined to change towards affording that freedom which is given by the law.
Wonderful. Let's go to the issue of licensing. People have complained around being licensed for ZBC, given that the majority or some of the people don't actually tune in to ZBC because of the issues that they violated around the kind of information that they disseminate not in agreement with them. So, and it's mandatory that everybody does that. You drive a vehicle that does not even connect to any channels of ZBC, and yet you have to have a ZBC license. We've had court cases where civilians have taken the ZBC to court around the issue of licensing. Can you enlighten us around that particular issue?
Thank you, Yvonne. Before we go anywhere, I think it is important to take note that Today, if you walk into the office of the Honorable Minister of Information, Media and Broadcasting Services, you'll find there will be a television set in the office. And if you check the channels that the Honorable Minister will be listening, it will be DSTV channels. Never ZBC.
CNN.
Yeah, it should be always CNN, BBC, Sky News, and so on. Not ZBC. They don't watch ZBC. They watch other stations, SABC, ENCA, and so on and so forth. Walk into the CEO of ZBC TV today, and you'll find in their office a TV set that is showing other international channels and not their own station. And I'm sure that applies in their homes as well. The reason is not because they want to learn something from the other TV stations. The reason is that their own station is not worth watching. They appreciate that. It's not worth watching. So what they don't want and what they are not seeing is this. Look at this. So the other advantage of plurality of our TV stations is here. Right now, almost every Zimbabwean that can afford to watch TV is paying for DSTV.
Yeah.
And DSTV is paid for in foreign currency. So what does it mean? It means that the meager foreign currency that we don't have in this country is actually leaking, going outside the country in order to pay for services that we can actually generate from within. So that's one disadvantage that these guys are not seeing. While they think they are controlling information, they are actually also controlling economic growth. They are avoiding economic growth by ensuring that foreign currency continuously flows out of the country to pay for services that we could actually invest in here.
Yes.
Why don't we open up these airwaves so that ENCA can come and invest in Zimbabwe? And then Zimbabweans will no longer have to pay foreign currency in order for them to access those services. So those are the kind of things that we need to look at. Coming to the licensing issue, I think the licensing issue is archaic because it seeks to promote monopoly of ZBC. And I believe it is unfair. Personally, as an individual, I believe it's unfair. Rarely do I listen to a ZBC station. It's very rare. Rarely do I watch ZTV. I think if you walk into my home, it's like any other ordinary home in Zimbabwe. You'll find DSTV, you'll find Kwesi. But you'll never find anyone who solely relies on ZBC because of a number of reasons. So it becomes unfair to force a citizen to pay for a service that they are not enjoying. It becomes
that they don't even want.
That they don't even want. You want to force it upon them. So I believe that as a committee, without really coming up with some kind of a solution to say we believe this is the solution, we'll have a number of benchmarking visits to other countries where public broadcasters are there. We want to go and see how they are doing it. Are they forcing a tax upon people who are not even getting their services? How are they doing it? And we believe that we can benchmark with countries like South Africa, okay, which has got public broadcasters that are doing extremely well. So we want to go and see how they are doing it. And then we try to see whether we can convince the current ministry to also apply a similar kind of environment here. We believe that's the way that we need to go. We need to open it up. We don't want to force people to do things that they don't want.
All right, we've got the internet. That is on the rise, and the rise of social media. People are literally spending their time on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, etc. We've also seen in the recently held election the infiltration of fake news or news that is just not verified, you know, going onto the social media. That's how fast technology has assisted the media environment. Is there a framework or a program in place to ensure that you know, people are able to use social media wisely?
Okay. I'm not so sure whether currently they are using it unwisely, for starters.
Okay.
Because for me to be able to say that they are using it unwisely, it it means that I'll be making a comparative analysis. There should be something that I'm comparing against. So,
well, maybe just to help in terms of values and virtues that as society we have, we help people. Now we are tweeting about people in trouble.
Yeah.
We have pictures of people involved in accidents.
Yeah.
Normally those are edited, or but right now you just get a raw image of a dead body, blood everywhere. It's just on social media. We have children are now accessing even information that they shouldn't.
I'm not so sure, again, Yvonne, whether we could say that information they shouldn't access it or they are supposed to access it. Let's talk about, for example, an accident. How many times yourself have you driven and found an accident along the road and then you stopped? And when you stopped, what did you do? You would walk exactly to where the accident scene is. What will you be going to do? Yes, at one time you can say, I'm going to assist. But you remain there even after you find that the people have been assisted that need to be assisted. Why? It's because you want to see, you want to know what it is that has happened. I believe indeed there should be an element of discretion to say, some people might say, no, look, I don't want to go and see such a horrific thing. Yeah, so maybe what we can say is that, again, we might need to do some benchmarking and say, internet is a new phenomenon in this side of the globe. There are certain countries that have had internet for so long. How have they been doing it? How have they managed social media? What are the best international practices on social media? Like you have indicated, it is social media, it is not commercial media. But one thing that I have realized in other developed countries, South Africa, for example, just next door to us, you find that ENCA will report that an accident is reported to have happened. Unconfirmed reports say an accident has happened at such a place. Unconfirmed reports. Why? They are trying to catch up with social media, because social media is fast. Okay? So the only problem that we are seeing in social media is because our mainstream media outlets in this country take some bit of time to respond to what social media would have reported about long back. So I think we need also to catch up in terms of the main media streams to catch up with what social media is doing. But in terms of regulation pertaining to social media, like I said, I'm not so sure offhand whether it is feasible and whether it is possible for anyone to control social media. And if it is possible, I'm not so sure whether it will not infringe again on the rights of expression, on the rights of freedom of expression and interaction. I'm not so sure. So we have to again do benchmarking. The committee will make an effort to see how other countries, how other countries have been managing social media.
All right, let's talk about people use social media a lot.
Yes.
And naturally that means broadband.
Yes.
That means internet access activity.
Yeah.
And the charges have just been phenomenal. People have complained about certain service providers shortchanging them, for the amount of money that they are charging for internet. What sort of mechanisms will be put in place to allow people to be on the web, but also doing it affordably?
Okay, I think whilst the services element is actually falls under the purview of my committee, the technical component of provision of internet falls under another committee, the ICT committee. But I would love to say, if you look way back when was our first cell phone network put in place? I think 1990 something to 2000.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at your first mobile line that you bought, my first mobile line that I bought, I bought it at a value of a cow.
Yes.
Okay, but now it's $4.2. So what does it mean? This issue of internet is still a new phenomenon. And because it is still a new phenomenon, the provision of it is still limited to a few suppliers. And because it is still limited to a few suppliers, demand is outstripping supply. So there's more demand for the product than the supply that is there. So no wonder why the prices are what? High. But if more investment is put into internet, I'm telling you, in a very short space of time, it will be a very cheap product. But we don't want it only to be cheap, it has to be accessible. Everyone should have access to go onto the internet and see any news that they want. Anyone, anywhere, including deep down in Snamwenda, in my constituents. People should be able to go onto the internet. So that's the desire that we have. That's the development that we want to happen. But we believe that working with our sister committee in II and ICT, we should be able to come up with measures to assist the executive to move into the direction of ensuring that internet accessibility is increased from the level that it is now.
Wonderful. In 2009, when the inclusive government came into effect, we saw the coming in of Newsday, the coming back of the Daily News, and the opening up, you know, not as much as people would want, but there was at least an opening up of the media space in this country. And we are hoping that with you as the chairperson of the Information Media and Broadcasting Services, there will be a semblance of opening up of the airwaves and a progression into a society that is better than what we are currently experiencing. Thank you so much, Honorable Sibanda, for a wonderful making us see that everything really is tied to the economy, and as long as we do it with prudence, we are able to contribute to the GDP.
Thank you so much, Yvonne. We hope to talk again after the committee would have made certain achievements towards ensuring more freedom, more opening up. We should be open for business within the Information Media and Broadcasting Services. So we just hope that the government will stick by its mantra that we are open for business. When you are saying you are open for business, be open everywhere. There should be no closed avenues of business. Business should be open and should be open throughout. And it should be open in the airwaves. It should be open in the television broadcasting. It should be open in the radio broadcasting. It should be open in the newspapers. The intolerance that we have seen where the AMH newspapers were attacked a few days ago is unacceptable. And therefore that level of intolerance has to stop.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us on this program, Transformation Markers. Join us again next week as we talk more about issues that affect you as Zimbabweans and how we are going to get there. God bless you.